Hi guys, thanks for joining me. I'd like to show you in this video how easy it is to design the earrings that you saw in the picture. And so let me show you what I did. Let's start with shapes. Select a circle. I want my top circle in the earring to be 0.75. Then I'll go ahead and duplicate that. And I want that circle in the earring to be 1 inch. And then I'll duplicate it for a third piece in the earring, and I want that third piece to be 1.5 inches. Now I want to turn these white because in the next steps that I do, it's just going to be easier to see on a light color. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add the little bitty circles for my Cricut to cut out the holes if I so choose to have the Cricut cut out the holes. And I'll show you how you can design it that way, and then you can hide those circles if you want to punch your own holes, but some people do like to have the Cricut cut them. So for that step, I'm just going to duplicate the circle again, and I'm going to make this 0.08. Now I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. So I already have one. I'll duplicate it 4 times. And then I'm just going to start placing them fairly close to where I think they should go. Okay, so we have them pretty close, and actually that's pretty nice, but I'm going to select everything and I'm going to say align and center horizontally. So now the earrings are lined up and the little holes in each piece of the earring is lined up. Then you can go back and adjust how far this is from the edge. Like I think this needs to come down just a little bit. And I think this needs to come up just a little bit. Now, I think that's placed well, and I think this is placed pretty well. This one, I'll probably go up a tiny bit. And I centered everything first just to get it in an up and down position where it should go so you can really see what you're doing. But I'm going to go back and I'll just recenter everything just in case I got off a little bit when I was moving them up and down. Okay, so now I want to slice these holes out of the earring. You can slice 2 images at once, so this bottom one's not a problem. You can click on slice and then pull that away and just get rid of this. But notice you can't slice that. So you can either pick one hole in the earring, slice, and then add this to what you have left and slice. But let me show you a way that I think is pretty fast. Just get rid of your earrings. Weld these 2 together. Now they are a single image. Weld these 2 together. Now they're a single image. I'll go ahead and reveal what was hidden. Now I can slice because my big circle is an image and then the 2 circles combined is another image. So I'll slice that. That one's ready. And then this will work the same way since I welded those 2 together. Slice that, move it out of the way, and then just get rid of all these excess pieces. And just because I like things to look right when I'm looking at the screen, I'm going to go ahead and center horizontally again and move this guy up just a little bit. So there is the basic design for my earrings. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. And I have 1 set of earrings. Now this is if you want to cut all 3 pieces the same color. I'm going to do a second set of earrings. And actually, let me change this color because I'm going to use white on my second pair. Let's just turn these gray. So now I'll duplicate those. And Move them over, and I'll just kind of move this out of the way. So on these earrings, I want it to have more of an ombre effect. And so my top two earrings, or the top two pieces of my earrings, I'll do white. And then the second two, okay, that's going to grab that top one too. All right, the second two pieces, this isn't the color I'm going to cut, but I think this will look cheery. So I'll do those in a yellow. And I'll do the bottom ones in a darker yellow. And even though those aren't the colors I'm using, that will make it so these cut out at one time, and then these will cut out on a second cut, and these will cut on a third cut. So I can use 3 different colors of leather. Now I'm a big fan of punching my own holes. Let me move this over first of all so it's easier to see it all. Okay, if I wanted to cut these but I didn't want the holes cut, but they were already in the design, you just click one and you say contour and you hide the hole, and there it's gone. Same thing on each layer. You just click on what you want to hide, and then it's gone. And because I typically don't have it cut mine, I'm going to go ahead and hide all those. For these earrings, I'm going to use a 2 to 3 ounce veg tan tooling leather, and it's just your natural color of leather on the front side. I've placed it nice side down, and I'll give it a nice braying. Then I'm also going to put a little bit of Scotch tape. This is a super hold tape around a couple of edges, just to make sure it stays stuck to the mat really nicely. When you're cutting leather, there's a lot of force against it, and so especially on thicker leathers, the blade can really shove it around and it can get bunched up. So I'm just putting that down. I use the genuine leather setting on this project, and it calls for the deep point blade. So I have that in the clamp, making sure it's clean as always. Okay, let's see what we have here. It looks like it did a nice job of cutting. With a lot of the leathers that I cut, the ones that are finished, they usually have a really fuzzy back, but this tooling leather is fairly smooth on the back. So if you're using a fuzzy leather, I put some contact paper under the leather just to protect my mat. But in this case, it's really not necessary. Now, the first thing that I want to do on all these pieces before I spend a lot of time and energy and product to finish them is I want to punch the holes in them with this leather plier that I got from Harbor Freight. I will link to a similar type tool on Amazon, and if you prefer, you can go to Harbor Freight and you can get these. They are not very expensive at all. And I especially want to do this first because if I mess this up, I don't want to have spent a lot of time working on these earrings. So I want to get a straight edge and figure out about where the center of the earring is. So I'm looking at the right edge. So I'm going to go ahead and mark where I think it should go. Okay, that is definitely off. So, okay, so these are 1 inch. And they are indeed 1 inch. So the center from side to side that way is right there. And then if I turn it and I mark the center again, wherever The center of my little mark there should be the very center of the earring. So let's try this again. So I have a dot down here and a dot up there, and I'm going to use those as my guide as far as from left to right where to put this tool, and then I'll just use my eye to determine how high and how low I want it. And basically I want enough leather left between the hole and the edge of the earring so that it is sturdy, but I don't want so much that I have to use huge jump rings. So I'm going to place it where I think it goes, take a really good look at it, and then go ahead and punch. Okay. Then I'll go ahead and place it on the other one. Don't put much weight down on it. Don't put much pressure on it until you're ready to commit. And then you just press. So I'm going to go ahead and punch all the holes in the rest of my pieces of leather. And then we'll be ready to put our burnishing agent on these. Okay, on the large circles you only need one hole, so if you're marking them, don't waste your time like I did. I have the rest of them punched and I think they're pretty well placed. So I just want to get any of this ink off that will come off. I'm going to coat these well enough that it's not going to bleed through. Using something less permanent or even putting a piece of painter's tape on the earrings to mark that probably would have been wiser, but I think I'll be fine. Now the next step that I want to do is I want to put a burnishing agent on these. And I was in Springfield Leather Company just recently, and I was looking at the gum trag, and they showed me a product that they recommend, and they said it has more flexibility in its use. Not that it is physically more flexible, but you can use it on more products. You can use it on chrome tan or veg tan, and it doesn't have hazardous properties, and it's very low odor. And they really love the product and they recommended it. And that is a product like Tokonole, Tokonole. And my understanding is Tokonole is a brand, and this is basically the same things in it. It's just a different brand than Tokonole. And so I'm going to shake this up. And just because something isn't hazardous doesn't mean you should be dipping your finger in it, but that's what you see a lot of people do that make videos. I want to turn these over. You can use this to smooth and burnish the flesh side of your leather as well as the edges. And so I just have this little coffee stir stick. Just going to dip it in there. It really doesn't take a lot of product. I probably put more on than I really needed. Then with having gloves on, I'm just going to take my finger and really rub that in, burnish that down. Then, and I realize I'm getting a little bit on my thumb without a glove, and rub that around the edges. Now this will be dry enough to paint within 5 minutes. Now there's two things I want to say about this process. The Cricut cuts this 2 to 3 ounce veg tan leather so well that you don't have really a lot of fuzz on the sides. This just helps it look really professionally finished. And then second of all, because I'm painting the fronts of these earrings, if I have a little bleed over this onto the front, it's really not a big deal. If you're using something that is pre-finished, then you want to be careful whether you're using gum trag or Tokonole or whatever you're using, because it can darken the leather that you're working with. These are the two colors of leather paint that I plan to use today. You can get this brand of leather paint in Hobby Lobby and other craft stores, or you can order it from Amazon. Amazon is the most expensive way, I really like this leather paint. Another good one is Angelus by Phoebes. It's a really good one. Also, I have one color in that. It is a little more expensive, so I've been sticking pretty much with the Leather Studio. Now I want to finish the backs of these for two reasons. Number one, I've made these before and it gives a super nice look when the earrings dangle. They tend to turn a little bit, so the back is the same color as the front. And then second of all, I just find it extremely difficult to get the sides painted without getting paint onto the back. And so rather than having little patchy pieces on the back, I just want to finish the entire back. So my two little pieces will be white, my two large pieces will be purple, and then my two medium pieces will be a mixture of white and purple so that we have that nice ombre effect. All right, so let's get these turned over to the back sides. Now with leather paint, less is more. And by less, I mean less per layer, but more layers is good. Instead of one thick layer where you're going to see brush strokes and it's just not going to dry as nicely. So make sure you have thin layers when you do this. And then the other thing is, what I have found is a very soft bristled brush is better than a really firm bristled brush. It doesn't have to be super soft, but a soft one is really good. It shows less brush strokes. Now on the backs of these, I'm not too concerned. They are slightly textured, so you're not really going to see a lot of brush strokes, but you could see uneven patchiness if you don't do a nice job. I like to just put a toothpick in these and do nice, firm, fast strokes, and then just smooth it out. Then, because there's a little buildup on the side, and I don't want that, oh, my brush is falling apart. To get this away from the buildup, you can just drag it off with your toothpick. All right, I'm going to keep using this brush. I probably should put a little glue down there to keep it, but for now it'll be fine. So again, just a little bit of paint and then just start dragging it across your leather. And again, this is the back side. I'll start with it because you can see it rolls around a little bit in its own paint. So there is going to be a little paint on the front. And by doing the backs first, then I can really focus probably three thin layers of paint on the front and get that nice and smoothed out. Okay, again, just drag it away from your paint mess. And right now I can see that there is a glob of paint in there, so I can just put my toothpick down in there, kind of roll around with it. If I need to, pick it up with my little toothpick, shove it back in there, and that paint will come off on my toothpick. I'm going to work fast because I don't want this to dry. And this goes so fast I don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, for my purple layer, just a little bit out. For now, you don't want to waste too much of this. It's not super expensive, but it isn't as cheap as just craft paint. Now, I have used just craft paint on earrings like this, and it does okay. It's not a bad look at all. If you were painting a purse or shoes or something that gets a lot of wear and tear, I would definitely use leather paint. But your earrings just aren't going to get abused and a lot of, they're not going to be bent and things like that. So if you want to use some craft paint on these, by all means, go ahead and try it. Now I'm going to use a little bit more for my paint mixture because I don't want to have to mix up too many batches of this. Each time you mix, you're going to have slightly different amounts of each, and the color could be different. So I just want to have enough to do everything I need to do. Now, by the time you're done with the backs of all three, you can flip them over and start on the front. It's not going to look good until you have about 3 coats on here. Now before I do my top layer or my final layer, I want to make sure that the sides get nice coverage. And the tricky part of this is not getting it so that it's lumpy on the top. So you know when you paint the side of something and a little bit comes over the top edge, that's what you want to try to avoid. And so I'm going to do the edges and then I'll go immediately to a final coat of the top just to smooth anything out. I'm just going to use this Q-tip, and I don't want a lot of paint on it, and that will help. The sides are coated a little bit already, but you are probably going to see gaps in the paint. So I am ready for my last coat on the tops of those. I'm going to get my brush limbered up with some fresh paint, and then drag it out of any excess paint that's left. I'm going to go ahead and switch to a fresh brush. This is getting just a little bit too thick. Okay, I'm going to do one more coat on the white ones, and then I'm going to wait about 10 to 15 minutes. I'll spray the fronts of all these with 1 to 2 light coats of a matte finished Mod Podge spray. I'll touch up the backs and then I'll put the hardware on. I wanted you to see my fancy paint booth. I'll take this outside, give it a couple of light coats of this matte Mod Podge. Now, even though it says it's matte, I think it's really a little bit more of a satin. I really like the sheen of this. These colors here are very flat. That's shiny. What this does is it kind of evens out your sheen. We're on the final step of making these earrings, and that's to add the hardware to them. So I have 4 jump rings and 2 fish hooks. I've started ordering sterling silver because I'm hoping to actually develop an Etsy store, and I think I would want those if I were buying earrings. They're hypoallergenic, and so that's what I'm going to start to use here. So let me start over so I explain what I'm doing. Okay, so I have my jump ring and I'm holding it alongside where the opening in the jump ring is. It's up at the very top, so I'm going to hold it with my little needle nose pliers, and then I'm going to put it into the smallest slot of my jump ring opening tool and just pull it toward me. You just twist it open. You don't want to pull it open. Now, go ahead and just place my purple earring on it and then put front to front of the next layer down on the purple earring. Now I want to grab lengthwise like I did before. That just supports the jump ring better so that you don't accidentally bend it. It'll stay in better shape if you have a lot of support on it as opposed to just holding it with the edge of the needle nose pliers. So now we're just doing the reverse and twisting it back to close it up. So I'll use the one that I already opened. Place that on one of the holes on the white earrings, and then again face to face or front side to front side. Twist that one back into place. And then the final step of getting these fishhooks onto your earrings. On these new fishhooks I have, the metal ends on this side that's closest to me. So I'm going to grab that with my needle nose pliers, hold on tight with my thumb, and twist that open to the side. Again, you don't want to open it by spreading it apart, you want to twist it to the side. And again, the reverse, twist that back. There's a little bit of a gap. So holding the little ball thing out of the way, I'm going to gently squeeze it closed so that I don't really misshape it. And there is our first earring. And here's our final product. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on my next video.